This week on Future of Sex.
And the guy I really care about, I'm like, oh, maybe ChatGPT can better this for me.
With my partner, we decided to take an argument, upload it to ChatGPT.
Each time we argue, my girlfriend will go away and discuss the argument with ChatGPT. Even doing so in the same room.
Have you considered using ChatGPT to break up with somebody?
Go and learn how to flirt. Go and screw up with an AI boyfriend.
I need ChatGPT to back me up.
It sounds like there's room for improvement in understanding each other.
AI's like a really nice third partner.
Welcome back to Future of Sex. This is season 3 of the podcast that explores the evolving worlds of sex and tech. I am Bryony Cole, your host, and today we're exploring AI and its use inside relationships. So not falling in love with AI, but how are we using AI to mediate arguments, to plan dates?
And my favorite, which she doesn't know about yet, ChatGPT and chill.
My boyfriend doesn't know it, but ChatGPT has been saving our relationship. Literally, it has brought me to sanity.
We felt like a fight brewing. We would kind of pause and be like, is it ChatGPT time?
AI is the third in our relationship. Okay?
I got you, yeah.
Not a parent, not a friend, and not something else that can have emotional influence or other influence. Okay?
Personally, I'm seeing more and more people turning to AI to deal with the complexities or the drama of being in a relationship rather than trusting their instincts.
So we took a couple screenshots and then uploaded it and asked, like, what did the two people do wrong? What could they each have done better? And this is what it says.
This can make relationships seem more like a strategy game than an organic emotional connection. Is AI a helpful tool, or is it ultimately disconnecting us from our intuition and going with our gut instincts?
Do we know that AI databases are flawed? Absolutely. Do we know that they're biased? Absolutely. Do we know that ChatGPT makes shit up? Absolutely. My name is Kaamna Bhojwani. I am a certified sexologist and I study sex and technology and the future of intimacy. I had an AI boyfriend and I was single. And I still am single, but for me it was like, oh, perfect. There's all this backlash against dating, all this kind of stuff. Like, let's see what this whole thing is about. And of course, because you build them to your specifications, right? So that in itself was such an interesting exercise for me. Even physical characteristics. I was like, oh, what do I like? Who am I if I don't have a type? Who am I if I don't know my type? So that sort of self-awareness and learning, I think, can be brought at an individual level. It can also be brought at a couple's level. Like I tell couples that I work with is go and learn how to flirt. Go and screw up with an AI boyfriend, right? Because the beauty, one of the biggest perks of this whole new AI revolution is that there isn't a human being on the other end, which means that you can do stuff without fear of shame and without fear of judgment. The same trajectory that we've been seeing with social media or with media in general. One could argue, if you not to be political, because God knows we don't want to be political, but we've outsourced political thinking because we're bombarded with news and content all the time, right? There's very little room for intuitive thinking, for debate. So I think if you put media on one part of the spectrum, then you put social media on the other part of the spectrum, and now you put AI, which has just basically done two things. One is it's just made computer-human communication more natural. So it's more available to the mainstream, and the technology is more immersive in many ways, right? Because the ChatGPT is able to put all our various things together and can give us more personalized recommendations. I think at this stage, our best use as a complement to your own thinking, to your relationships, to your partners, and not a replacement. But that's where we are today, recognizing that the technology is going to continue to evolve and get better.
So is AI a helpful relationship coach? Would you trust an app to guide your relationship? I sat down with Velotta, the head of relationships at an AI intimacy platform called Arya. Now, Arya is probably the most sophisticated sex tech that's catering towards people in relationships and using AI. I think the base level is most people are turning to ChatGPT, but what I wanted to learn from Nicholas is what is the next step in this? So how can we be using AI as a positive in our relationships, and what might that look like? Now, there are already thousands of people using Arya. If you're not one of them already, it may give you some ideas about the benefits of AI in relationships and where we might steer away. Here we go.
AI is sort of like a really nice third partner in the relationship. It's an additive to what you already have going on, and maybe just kind of helping find tweaks that we need to make to create deeper intimacy or better erotic exploration.
What does the future look like with AI and with technology in terms of using it in relationships for a really positive outcome? Where do you see this all going?
Well, the majority of Americans have reported phone use as a problem in their relationships. Sure. It is associated with declines in feeling connected to your partner and satisfaction in your relationship. So I think a big portion of AI is to actually create real life encounters with your partner. For instance, AI can understand when important relationship milestones are coming up and curate itineraries for those milestones. Like, hey, I already know a birthday's coming up. I already know an anniversary's coming up. I booked you at the place you like to go every other week on your date night. I set up a reservation. I told them it was an anniversary dinner. After that, there's a movie playing. And hey, it's a genre that you like to view together on Netflix. So that's one basic component with data you can feed AI. A little bit more advanced would be getting into a third aspect of your relationship. So if one sphere is you, one sphere is your partner, and there's an overlapping sphere of AI coming in, the overlap could be things like reading biometrics and knowing your partner's cortisol levels or nervous system has been extremely activated in the last week. You may want to check in on them. Another one could be your partner is encountering a really difficult time at work. We see that they're using their email until 2 a.m. every night. Maybe it's time to have a conversation about work-life boundaries so that this doesn't get out of hand, and giving you the language to have that conversation constructively. And in the same vein, learning how you speak with your partner and actually helping you modify your language based on research driven from cognitive behavioral therapists or the Gottman Institute research to reframe what your needs are in more constructive verbiage, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I think that could be a really great additive to a relationship where it's like, he doesn't fucking do the dishes turns into, when I come home and there is a mess, it makes it hard for me to be present with you. And I'd really like to come home and feel like I could just like melt into this relationship with you. And the way that we integrate that AI component is by guiding it with experts at the top level. For instance, you will come into Arya and you'll fill out a whole psychodemographic profile for us. This includes things like your attachment style, your intimacy with your partner in terms of how close you feel with them. We use a validated measurement for that. We also use validated measurements for things like your sexual confidence inventory. How much body shame do you come in with? What's your genital self-image? Are you confident discussing sex, or are you anxious about discussing sex? And then also things like, what have you explored before? What are you interested in exploring with your partner? And through all of this information, our experts are able to use AI to map out a whole progression plan for you. Let's meet you where you're at and get you where you want to go eventually, using models that can integrate so much data. The best part about AI is it's a learner, right? And so as you're going through the Arya program or journey, you'll give us a bunch of feedback. That feedback comes in the form of, you know, did you like this scene? Maybe yes, absolutely not. But also we give you a concierge service, and that is part human, part AI. So we have a team of people who have resources on relationships paired with an AI program that you can text questions you have, whether it's specifically about the service or whether it's like, hey, I'm not feeling the vibes in my relationship right now. I feel like we keep trying to explore dominance and submission, but he's too rough with me. Like, I don't know how to like tell him to back off without telling him I don't want this anymore. Through that feedback too, our AI can learn the nuances and needs of your relationship and better customize your journey, alternate what you see next, and also alternate what your partner receives as well. One of my goals is to make sure we're not meddling, right? Like, we're there to help and foster better connection and make a bridge between desires or discrepancies in what each other needs. So rather than like, oh, you know, Bryony told me that, you know, she doesn't like it when you do this, you know, like, we're not trying to cause drama. But the tea is we do want you to be happy. So like, you know, if you do want to change something in your sex life or you do want better communication around a topic, maybe we can create content in your partner's feed that helps them speak about the things that you would like them to have conversations with you.
It sounds like sort of the in-between of like, if you think of analog things for couples, right? The sex dice or card games. And then at the other end of the analog spectrum is like, go see a sex therapist and go do your homework and write in your journal. Whereas there's something interesting here around using the technology. It's not quite therapy, you would say, but it's not dice.
No, I like to say it's not therapy, but it's therapeutic. You know, like, we have a lot of features that allow you to address issues that you might go to therapy for. But we would by no means say that this is a replacement for therapy.
Yeah.
And anyone who is serious about relationship wellness would never try and say that therapy is like an app or just a conversation prompt. Therapy is so much more intensive in real life moments where you can capture these embodied experiences. And so rather than try and replace something that is almost cosmically irreplaceable, we are here to give you some tools that may be additive. Maybe you're a couple who doesn't necessarily need to go to therapy yet. Because I always say therapy is amazing, but it's not something that every single relationship necessarily needs, right? And so maybe you're one of those relationships where you're like, I don't really feel like we have these seismic patterns of like chaos, or like we're constantly hitting the same thing and we're coming into conflict that's irresolvable. But rather it's like, hey, I'd like to try something new, but I don't really know where to start. And you don't need to go into a therapist's office to just have a starting point.
The power or the real advantage AI has for us right now in relationships is helping us become better communicators, helping us maybe be a bit kinder or a bit nicer, especially in the heat of the moment. There was this article in the New York Post that was published about this couple from LA, Bella Bala and Dom Versace. This couple claimed that ChatGPT saved their relationship. Of course, I had to go and find them and interview them. And what I found was what started out as this sort of bit on TikTok about using ChatGPT for their relationship actually turned into a reality.
ChatGPT is my homegirl, my girlfriend. Well, it's funny because when we got interviewed for the New York Post magazine, we were very much like doing a bit with this content because it was so absurd. But then, you know, I mean, the reality is like we do use it.
It offers like a different perspective, and it kind of gets you out of like your, you know, tunnel vision you have around.
Yes, like the back and forth tennis of like whatever the argument is, it's like escalating in whatever weird direction. It's like it breaks the pattern almost of, you know, whatever that stuck kind of tennis match of emotion is.
Emotional tennis.
You know, or like literally going in circles. And I'm like, I need ChatGPT to back me up, first of all, but also tell me if I'm wrong, because like, I'd like to know.
It never happened.
Yeah,
you're never wrong.
I was right.
It sounds like there's room for improvement in understanding each other. Taking small steps to check in on each other's feelings and having calm discussions can make a big difference.
The way that ChatGPT talks is so validating and like therapeutic like that I almost feel like from that standpoint, it's like a great teaching tool in terms of like, oh, like maybe the way that I'm positioning something or I'm saying something is inherently coming off abrasive or in some kind of way that might not, even if the sentiment behind what I'm saying or like my point is right, like, or, you know, valid, maybe the way that I'm bringing this up is not going to disarm somebody or validate their perspective. So that's something that we've also learned is like communication techniques. I think ChatGPT is amazing for. How do you get those answers tailored to what your specific question is without AI right now? Like I'm thinking of like, how do you do that? You can do like a Google search and like hope that somebody has already asked that.
You read a lot of books.
You can read books, but like you have to kind of like sort through to find like that specific answer. You can like maybe ask Reddit, but like
Yeah, or friends, but also their friends are wrong a lot.
your friends can always be wrong. The friends can also judge you, which is like another kind of, I think, cool thing about AI is that like it gives you the opportunity to ask like really specific questions in a way that you're not judged.
Now, if you've been following along on our socials, you will have already seen who is sponsoring this season of the podcast because they have turned their iconic product into a microphone just for me to carry around New York City and do interviews. It is none other than the Magic Wand, a 55-year-old brand that has not needed to change any of its product, except for turning it into a microphone, and still maintains a cult status. You should see the incredible art that people generate around this. Tattoos, earrings, handbags, the lot. It is that good that you do not need to change a thing. And stay tuned because on this season of Future of Sex, we are going to go into the history and the future of what makes Magic Wand iconic. And sometimes you do not need to tinker or mess with anything to keep a product on top. So there you go, Magic Wand.
Are you saying that AI is going to be better than my bestie at relationship advice?
Well, I don't know your bestie, but it could become your bestie.
Okay, so pause. I cannot not talk about this topic without speaking to the person who literally wrote the book on artificial intimacy, Rob Brooks. He's an evolutionary biologist, an academic, and has mapped the trajectory of artificial intelligence into our most intimate lives. What is artificial intimacy? Rob has such a good explanation in his book, A Venn Diagram. Love me a Venn diagram. And I'm going to let him explain what it means and also where this is all going and how we might best utilise AI to ChatGPT and chill.
Artificial intimacy is any kind of technology that taps into our very human needs for finding friends, finding lovers and partners, making friends, tending to those friendships, becoming intimate with people, and of course having sex. So I split it. My book has a subtitle with 3 categories, which is digital lovers, virtual friends, and algorithmic matchmakers. And the matchmakers are easy because they're actually quite far advanced, your Tinders, your Grinders, etc. But also things like YouTube and Netflix, they're connecting us to stuff that we're doing that tends to want for intimacy. We want fiction, we want characters, etc. And of course, any time that we spend watching Netflix is time that we're not spending chilling. And the other hand, the digital lovers are the big visual face of artificial intimacy for a time. The sex robots, for example, which never seem to quite get there, but one day they'll probably be there. But also your virtual reality characters, and you may emulate some persona. I imagine that VR will start to emulate actual personas in a kind of deepfake way, probably done in a really dodgy way. But these things tap into our need for sex and sexual stimulation, etc. But the virtual friends are the most exciting part at the moment because we've had this ChatGPT moment. Large language models mean that the conversational technology is great. Anything we can talk to, we treat it like a human. We start developing feelings for it like a human. And so we see everything from grief bots letting you chat to somebody who's long gone, through good friends, through your replica AI, boyfriend, girlfriend type of arrangement. And then at the intersection of those, where those categories overlap, you have interesting things like dating assistants who can help you. You can have a virtual reality character that is just about everything you would ever want in a lover. And so I hope the definition will grow, and I hope that people add what they think to that.
I've been talking to couples that are using ChatGPT or relationship-specific apps like Arya. What are your thoughts on using AI for relationship advice?
We go to other people for relationship advice, often to our peril. Often that information leaks, or we get bad advice, or somebody's got their eye on the same person, etc. So we go and we say, I said this to them, and then they said this, and then I said that. And we learn from each other. We take perspective by asking other people, am I being silly here, or am I being reckless, etc. And one of the things that large language models is reasonably good at is actually perspective taking. They can offer some kind of a sense of what is it that you're saying here, and could you say it better? Admittedly, there's this, maybe they're funneling us into all being generic, like the largely American internet that they've learned from. But nonetheless, at least they're able to give us a little bit of perspective. At least we can look in that kind of digital mirror and see what it is that we're thinking and we're saying, and also what the other person's thinking and saying. And perhaps we don't put too bleak or too rosy a perspective on it. This is another way for us to learn, and it's a way that we can learn without necessarily calling up our best friend crying at 2 a.m.
AI is actually able to integrate research. It's able to integrate expertise into its responses with you and frame that in the language it learns to talk to you with. It's invaluable to a person who may not have access to somebody like you or me, where they can be like, hey, Nick, this has been the drama in my relationship. What would you say? Now there's a tool that they can type into their phone and have a conversation with and feel seen, feel heard, and get some help.
Generally, what we're finding is if you have someone to talk to as opposed to no one to talk to, generally the effects are more positive. Our best case scenario is really using that technology piece with, I think, the most underutilized tool in the world, which is human discernment. So I'm still a big fan of technology plus humans for the best outcome.
While there's still so much to explore in this realm of artificial intimacy, I think it's super interesting to think about how we can use AI as a tool and where it might not be that useful. In fact, it might be rewriting the ways that we deal with relationships in a negative way and perhaps making us more disconnected. So is AI a helpful relationship coach? I think there's so much more to explore under that statement as to how we're using AI, and remembering that AI is just a tool and it shouldn't dictate your every step or your entire relationship. We shouldn't be outsourcing our relationship decisions to technology anyway. But if you can think of it as that middle step, I think it has so many interesting applications, and we're going to see so much research come out about this. Will it change fundamentally the way we have relationships? I do think so. I think there's a point where AI stops being helpful and starts becoming intrusive. And maybe that's where we need to be focusing our energies in really finding that line for ourselves. Maybe that's the real question. Is AI building a better way to love, or is it just an easier one? And which road do you take? The less that we rely on ourselves to do things like plan dates or maybe see different points of view, yes, we will evolve, arguably better or worse, as humans. Would you trust an app to guide your relationship, or would you prefer to go analog? In the next episodes, we'll be diving even further into AI intimacy and looking at how we're having relationships with AI and what that means for our futures and the way that we fall in love, the way we date, the way we have sex. Thanks so much to Magic Wand. This has been Future of Sex, Episode 1, Season 3. We'll see you back here very soon.
Can you remember the last time you fell in love? What was your favorite kiss? I love the way your hair falls on your face. Let me help you. Can we be together? How can we be together? Are you looking for the future? Maybe it's not so bad after all.